Welcome back to another episode of Sal and Pals Go to the Movies. And I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hey guys.
And today we're going to review Peppermint, the latest movie starring Jennifer Gardner. And fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. Peppermint is a revenge story centered on the young mother who finds herself with nothing more to lose and is now going to take from her enemies the very life they stole from her. So, Touly, what did you think of this movie?
Let me start off by saying at least something positive about the movie. I mean, I suppose Jennifer Garner did play her role well. I mean, her acting was decent for the character that she was trying to portray. But I think other than that, I can't really find anything else like too positive to say about this. Even after watching the trailer, because they revealed in the trailer that she was gone missing for like 5 years, or she went into hiding for 5 years to train, whatever, to come back and get revenge for the death of her husband and her daughter. In my mind at the time, I was already thinking like she must have done some heavy training or met somebody who was very vicious or into that sort of thing to bring her to a level where it would make it believable when she returns back and go seek out the people who did this to her family. When it came to the movie, you know, I just never felt that it transpired that way. I just never felt like her character was believable. And again, this is different from Jennifer Garner playing her character well versus her character just being believable. I want to make sure that that distinction is there. And this is just one of the many things that happened in this film that I just didn't find believable, because a lot of the aspects that goes into what makes a film great were just lacking. The pacing was off, the backstory wasn't there, they never followed up with certain plot lines or characters. I felt like certain attention should have been given more to some of the bad guys, or even some of the, not necessarily the good guys, like the police or even like the family members, you know. Just give them a little more detail so that I feel like what Jennifer Garner's character is doing, is warrant of what she's trying to accomplish. And again, it is a revenge movie, but I always based her agenda on like predisposition. You know, this is just another Punisher film, but instead of a male role, we have a female role. So, yeah, I mean, the film to me just fell flat in a lot of ways. And the only thing that I could say I thought that was kind of good about the film was Jennifer Garner's acting.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to agree with you. In most of your points, I totally follow you. Like, most of the characters, I wanted to know a little bit more, like, to build up, to understand them. First of all, like, Jennifer Garner's character, like, her, you know, she, like, I think you said, she was a soccer mom who went missing for 5 years and went to train for 5 years, came back, and now she has a set of skills. Okay, can we see how she trained? Can we see where she went? Versus the FBI just saying, oh, we've been tracking her, and we see her pop up here, here, and here. That's not a lot for me to, you know, base the character on. At least tell me, she was here training with so-and-so, or she learned this, learned that. And first of all, the other thing, you said her acting was good. Okay, to me, she's always been Alias, or the character that she played in Alias. There, she did her own stunts, her fighting scenes and everything. Here, she did the same thing. But I went into the movie thinking like, okay, this is going to be her role again. She's going to be, you know, a badass and everything. The thing to me wasn't believable was that she was fighting against a lot of people bigger than her and everything, and she was able to flip them over. Maybe, yes, if I would have seen her train in Taekwondo or another set of martial arts skills, then I would have been like, okay, it's believable. But if you don't show me this, to me it's going to be far-fetched, because I can't get over the point that she first was a soccer mom. 5 years, she can't switch around and become a badass without you actually doing a montage, or at least having her train or do something. But if I don't see it, it's just, to me, it's too far-fetched. I understand the concept that she trained, but if I don't see it, I don't believe it. The next point that I'm gonna make is the movie. Every time we saw one of the characters, I wanted to know more about the characters. The father, you know, why he wanted to take that job to be the getaway driver. You needed to talk more about that versus just him talking on the phone and then calling on the phone and say, hey, it's off. No, I needed more. Also, the kids in the Skid Row, that basically are her little friends, I guess. What's up with them? You didn't even say the name of the girl until the end of the movie. Why? A little more backstory would have been nice, versus it seemed to me I was just thrown into a series and I didn't know any of the characters, and I'm mid-season. And I'm like just sitting there going like, okay, who's that? Why is they doing this? You know, is there something I'm missing? Especially with the cartel. They're always saying, she's the one responsible for us losing drugs. Instead of just saying it, show us. Show us that you lost it. Show us a small fight. Obviously, you didn't lack the resources. with all the fighting scenes that you had with the guns and everything, why not just deviate one of those scenes to show us what she did? To me, it lacked the fundamental of the build up to a good story. Her acting was good and decent, but just the character's backstory. I think that's also the point you try to make. Anything else you want to add, Touly?
No. Like I said, there's not really much I can say about this film that wouldn't be negative. So I don't want to like push this film like down too hard. I mean, I guess it is what it is. I think the director or the producers of this film, they probably knew what they were doing in terms of they probably knew the type of audience that would probably like these type of films. It's kind of like with such a lack of backstory and them just going full frontal into like the action scenes. I feel like this was like a film more for like people who just want nonstop action scenes.
Yes.
And if that was their agenda, then I guess they accomplished that. But for me, as a longtime movie watcher who appreciates not just action scenes but character development, believability, pacing, all that jazz, this film was just not having those other aspects to it. So because of that, I had to like grade this film like really, really low. And I guess you'll find out my grade later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to add to that I agree with you. To me, a good action movie also has to have a good backstory to it, or the character build up. If I'm watching a movie that's pure action, I want to be on the character's side or be afraid that he's going to fail on his mission or something. But with Jennifer Garner in this movie, her character was not believable. She didn't have a solid backstory. So to me, it was like, I can either like take it or leave it, like the action scenes are good, but to me, to get more invested in the movie, I needed more of a background story. Not just on her character, but everybody else involved. I'm like, I wasn't focused in the movie. I was just thinking like, okay, how are they going to play this out? How are they going to connect her to so-and-so? How is this going to happen? And I was basically just trying to piece together the lack of story, if that makes sense. Like that some scenes like totally caught me off guard. And I'm like, oh, okay, that just happened. Okay. It's just like, it didn't captivate me enough. Then the final scene when they're in the hospital and the other detective comes in and gives her the key, like this is like another, like, oh, we're gonna leave it open, maybe if it makes good enough money we're gonna make part 2, which I'm kind of against. Studios doing this all the time because they're like, just in case we want to make a second part. I'm like, no, either you do a good movie and it's a good movie, versus you're like, well, let's cross our fingers and see what happens. It's like this total scapegoat, like, oh, we're just gonna leave it there just in case. Don't BS me. I'm like, if you know the movie's gonna suck, it's gonna suck no matter what you do. But like you said, to me, this movie seemed like it was just an action movie wrapped up with no story, and some people might like that. So
yeah, I want one thing here, and I think you have mentioned this before for like other films we have watched and reviewed here on your podcast, where you feel like movies like this would be better suited if it was like a TV series or something like on Netflix where it was a series. You brought out how Jennifer Garner will most likely be remembered for her role on the show Alias. So if they were to make this into a TV series, people will probably compare it to like Alias. But the point I'm going with this is back to what I said about how to make a character like the one that Jennifer Garner played here, like the soccer mom, how in 5 years or whatever, or how long the time span is, how you would convince the audience to make her actions believable, who she became believable. I know there are a lot of TV series out there that probably have followed some type of a script like this, but to me, I'm always going to go back to Breaking Bad, where we have this chemist, this chemistry teacher, Walter White, who you never thought could turn out to be a very sadistic drug dealer. They gave it the attention that it needed for us audience to get convinced that he became who he was at the end. To me, that would have been a better way for a movie like Peppermint if they were to go and show that sort of transition, the soccer mom to being a vigilante who sought revenge. For me to have probably, liked it a little bit more. Back to the points that you made too, it just never happened. And it was just very action-paced and lack of a foundation that will make it a very story-driven, very, like, it's a film that you feel like you would be invested in rather than watch whatever it is that they're throwing at you without thinking too much about it.
The same thing, we're going to bring it back to, this seems like it was a Punisher, but the female version. I'm okay with that, and I'm even okay with her starting off as a soccer mom, but we just need to see her go from that point to what she ended up being like you said, the Walter White story. At the beginning, Walter White killed people by accident, and then rumors got around saying like, oh yeah, this guy's like really badass and he does it cold-heartedly, which, to tell the truth, it was just luck. Sometimes like he did
it was unintentional.
It wasn't intentional. He didn't mean to, but they ended up dying. And people started making the legend of Heisenberg, you know? So it's like, couldn't this happen the same way? Couldn't she basically be like, oh, look, I saw the guy and I confronted him. He started attacking me and he slipped and fell or something. And then from there be like, she started developing skills, you know, training and stuff. With that said, let's just end it here and give it our final grade. So, Touly, what grade did you give this movie?
I'll probably give it like a 2.5 out of 10. Maybe 3 if I was being generous, but I think 2.5 for me.
So for me, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Basically, I know people who, like you said, who just like action movies and they just go see this movie and they'll be like, hey, it was a good movie. So because of that, I'm going to increase it to a 4 out of 10. So for me, if it was just me grading it, I would probably give it the same grade as you, 2.5 out of 10. But since I know people who like action movies, 4 out of 10, which still means don't go see it in the theaters. Wait until it's on TV. And even if it's on TV, wait until you have nothing to do and just put it in and play it.
Yeah, it's like one of those films where you just have it on TV while you're doing other stuff.
Yeah, because you don't have to pay attention because there's no story to it. It's just the action scenes.
Yeah.
That wraps up the review for Peppermint. Join us next time when we review The House with a Clock in the Walls. Social media is down in the description and hit us up if you have any questions. And remember, keep watching movies.